Well, hello, my friends. It is always a pleasure to have one of these StreamYards happening. And today we were victims of technology, time zones, but we're making it happen. And I'm so excited to be able to connect with an artist that is a fairly new artist, but some of the faces and names might look familiar to you. And we even have some questions already to throw at the crew. So without further ado, Collect.Assembly, we've got Morgan, Joel, and Adam joining us from Saskatchewan. Guys, how are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I am good. I'm so excited to connect with you guys because normally it's just business, but we're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit more about Collect.Assembly and how you guys formed this new band because some people might remember a group called Flood the Stone and they'd recognize Adam or and Joel as part of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're something different. And there's also Morgan. Hi, Morgan. How
Yep.
are you?
Good, good.
Good. So, Morgan and Joel, you two are the front singers for Collect.Assembly. And so, just coming out of the gate, I noticed there's no dot between Collect.Assembly on this, but there's places where it is. And so, we had a question from Sherry from War Radio from the Rock in Newfoundland asking about that dot.
Okay. So, Holly, you'll appreciate this. This is a marketing error on my point right off the get-go. So should we let's start right at the beginning. I was in an accident. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but I felt God calling me into getting back into music after the disbandment of Flood the Stone. So I titled the thing called Joel Jones Worship, and I was writing worship songs, that kind of thing, not really knowing what to do. But at that same time, I really wanted to do something with other people. So what did I like? I went and registered a website called Collect.Assembly.com. And at the same time, I started branding it and did the Spotify page, did all that kind of stuff with the dot in the middle. And then I was like, wait, I might have made a mistake because now I can't pull that out. So that's why the dot is there. Again, it's sometimes like when you get asked, like, what's your band name mean? And with Flood the Stone, it was just two towns, and we're like, oh, it sounds kind of cool. Where you get the word flood and stone, it was Ebenezer and Springside. It wasn't anything deeper than that. The dot has no meaning other than it was a marketing error. And now when you ask Alexa to play a Collect.Assembly song, you have to say Collect.Assembly. So I
Oh,
apologize for that.
no.
That's funny.
Oh, goodness. That Alexa. So literal,
No.
hey?
Fun has a dot at the end of their name as well, and
Okay.
I'm sure they're fielding the same
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's a whole different kind of .com era.
No, it
Yeah.
sure is. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's talk about Collect.Assembly and how you guys formed. You had mentioned that you, Joel, had been in an accident. And so this whole new chapter of your music endeavors and music ministry began. So, I mean, let's talk about that. How did the idea even come to you?
Yeah. So after the accident, I was in the hospital for about a week. Just making sure that I was still going to live, all that kind of stuff.
Still gonna
Um,
live. That sounds
Still
pretty
going to live.
serious.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a life-threatening injury. I still have some back issues from it, with a cracked spine, that kind of stuff. But the Lord has provided, and the Lord has healed me, in a manner that is only a miracle. And coming out of that, sitting at home, kind of just reading scripture, because that was about all that I was able to do. I came across a scripture that was saying, write down your dreams. It was to one of the prophets, and he said, write down your dreams and share that with people. And that hit me. It hit me really hard because at that moment, I think we were done Flood the Stone for about 2 years. At that point, Adam, there was talking about getting a studio started locally, and yeah, when I was down, songs were just coming to me. Like I would wake up with a melody and like lyrics right away. So I'd send him over to Adam, and he's like, yeah, we gotta start doing stuff. So he started the studio. I started Joel Jones Worship, and then released a couple songs under Joel Ivy. I don't know if you can find any of that stuff anywhere, but I do a lot of that worship locally. So I'll sing, we write and do a lot of worship songs for our local churches. But yeah, at that same time, I was like, I need more people. So Collect.Assembly. And then Morgan and I, this is my sister-in-law. We got together it was a cold winter day. And she's like, here's all my songs. And she comes out with a binder, and she's done this a few times. So I know that there's stuff there. She's done this a few times. She's like, here's a binder of, and just this last time that she did it, it was so fleshed out and so easy to write together and to finish a song. That I was like, okay, so Collect.Assembly, which I thought was going to be a worship collective initially, has turned into this band where we're dealing with life's hard questions. We're dealing, this next album that we're going to be starting here is going to be a lot more introspective of what it looks like to deal with God every day, what it looks like to live faithfully and live that long journey instead of these hilltops and valleys. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff, but what does it look like to make it from point A to point B, which is all of your life?
Yes, all of your life. Morgan, not a lot of people can work in especially in a creative capacity with a brother-in-law. What was the inspiration for you to be like, yeah, I'm going to entrust you with some songs that are coming from my heart and let's do something?
Well, writing songs for me has been, I think I started writing songs as soon as I came out of the womb. But it's been a huge coping strategy throughout my life. It's been, I just sing everything through the day. You should come to my house sometime because my kids are exactly like me, and they'll be just washing the dishes or running around the house and they're singing it and making it to a tune that they already know. And it's basically a musical household that you're walking into. It's very funny. But that's just how I live my life. And I pray throughout the day while I'm doing laundry and I'm just making up these songs and singing them. And so that's where my heart comes from behind the songs. It's just kind of just a daily conversation with God, a daily prayer and so it comes from the rough moments. It's not typical worship. But it is worship because it's just that worship of your daily life that's coming out. And so I've always shared my songs with Joel because we've been, I don't know, close from the beginning since he met my sister. And so he's always known that I've written songs. And when I saw that he was kind of going to go out and do his own thing musically, I was like, well, I've written a lot of songs lately, that maybe he could use. So I tried to pull him aside to give him some. And I was like, okay, you can take these songs and run with them. And he's like, no, you're going to sing them. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, that's... But he's kind of dragged me along on this journey. And I struggle a lot socially. So that this has been a huge hurdle for me to overcome. But God has been teaching me so much through all of this, and I've been kind of using this whole experience to just grow deeper with him. And it's been not necessarily for trying to get my music out into the world or anything, but just I want God to challenge me and grow me, and this is a way that he's been doing that.
Oh, it's incredible. Sometimes it takes a family member to pull you out of your comfort zone and allow you to just express with your own voice the words God has given you. So thank you for saying yes to God.
Let's talk on that a little bit. So we're all family here, Adam.
Yeah.
So I married into the craziness. So it's not this.
Cousin.
It's not,
we're the crazies.
It's not me. I married the sister and cousin.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't.
But when I didn't know how to play guitar. Whatever. When I showed up to Adam hired me as a lifeguard. When was that? That was 15, almost so long ago.
The backstory to that is the reason why I hired him. Not personally.
Yeah.
Just to follow me around at the beach or anything.
To help save your life.
Yeah.
He's like, I need an entourage.
Yeah. exactly. I was really concerned about water. No, I was a camp director back 2007-ish era. Yeah. So I was a camp director for a while there, and I needed a lifeguard. Joel was a lifeguard. That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Almost.
We're saying
Almost.
that. Yeah, that's how I met Joel in the first place, and then he met my cousin Sky.
Yeah.
Her sister, and so this is much more inbred than you really realize. This whole thing. That's kind of the...
so then after Adam left as camp director a few years later, I took over as like a program director. I can't even remember.
You were camp director for a period.
Anyway,
as well.
so I was hiring the people, and nobody could play guitar, nobody could do worship, whatever. So Adam's dad went and got me a guitar because he's like, "Oh, you played guitar like back in school." And I was like, "Yeah, I know 4 chords." And that's still all that I know.
Yeah.
I just like do it really well.
Just
now
to different keys.
So 4
There you
chords,
go.
that's all you need to know. But yeah, he gave me a guitar and he's like, "You're going to do this and be good at it." And that was kind of the start of my music career, was because of Adam's dad.
And then Flood the Stone happened,
Stone.
And we on our last year we had a bunch of festivals booked all throughout the Midwest and the Western, Pacific Coast states. And we had a sort of a revolving door of guitar players at the time. So we had a guy from like Calgary, a guy from like Tri-Cities, Washington. So we had a bunch of different people. And then the very end, we were getting tired of just like showing up and having these random guitar players play with us all the time. And so I called Joel up and I sneakily said, I was like, "Hey, you want to come over and just jam for a bit?" I'm pretty sure he was on to me pretty quick, but he learned all the songs really well. And so we sat and jammed for a while. And at the end, I was like, "Hey, dude, would you like to come on tour with us, just, for our last summer here, as we're kind of wrapping up a bunch of stuff. We're playing some really cool shows, some pretty cool at some pretty cool venues." So Joel played with us for the last year with Flood the Stone, and then that's how we kind of kept connecting musically, like through that whole thing. Yeah.
And what's cool is that, Morgan writing, I believe, would be a passion, and for Joel, writing as well. And then you've got a producer as well to bring those words to life and incorporate music. And it's fun that it is all in the family, really.
Yeah.
But you have 2 other members, so we should also give them a shout out, Courtney and Steve, right?
That's right.
Yeah. They're working real jobs today.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's talk about your new single. It's your first single as Collect.Assembly to radio, called The Lord's Prayer, doing very well at radio. We're so excited, as there's a bit of a different vibe to it. But number 4. Yes. Number 4 on More Radio and the CCRC for CanCon, and doing well and getting traction on the overall CCRC chart. How did this song come to be?
Morgan.
Well, we were working on the album, and this was actually the last song to be done on the album. And we had a lot of slow songs, and we were kind of changing the vibe of the album. And so Joel was like, "Morgan, I need you to write me a upbeat song, and I need it by tomorrow."
Okay.
And then I was like, "Okay, are you coming to help me?" And he's like, "No, you got this." And I was like, "Okay." So I was going a whole different direction, and then this one came together in about 20 minutes. And then I sent it to Joel, and then we kind of finished it together and we worked on it. And then it goes to Adam, and we kind of collectively work on it a little bit more. But this is the last song that we completed on the album. And that's kind of how it got started. It's written as a daily prayer, just like a daily offering to God, just kind of something that you would sing every day. And it's really to show the true meaning of what worship looks like in your daily life.
Mm-hmm. Do your kids sing it while they're doing the dishes too, or no?
My kids know every song better than I do. They even know every song off of our second album, which isn't even in the studio yet, but they know every word.
So it's kid approved, which is beautiful. Adam, when you get the lyrics and like the feel for the music, and you're producing it and bringing it to life from a recorded perspective, do you feel a little extra pressure because it's family, or is it really just you catch the vision super easy and it's like on point?
The second one. Yeah, like it's especially new songs. This is just more of a producer thing, but I find that the longer an artist sits on a song, like it becomes kind of their white whale, and and then there's pressure on it because they've built it into something in their head even though they've never heard it, you know. But the fact that Morgan was just writing a lot of this album as we were doing, there was a couple of songs I think at the beginning, but a lot of it was really fresh. And so every single time they would come into the studio for another song, it felt like it was a lot of energy. It was just always like, you know, this is a brand new song. Like, what do you think? Where can we go with this? And so it was a really refreshing process, honestly, the whole time. There was no songs on this album that were like, okay, like, yeah, I know you've been thinking about this for a long time, but we got to do something, you know, like, so there was none of that. This song was just, it was a lot of fun to do. At that point, we were kind of going in the direction of sort of this hybrid, you know, throwing some country into sort of the otherwise sort of pop inspired melodies for the lyrics and whatnot. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it came just very easily, very naturally.
Mm-hmm. Every season I find, like for an artist, it just seems like an album represents that season. And so I want to ask each of you for this season of this particular album, Outlaw Gospel, what was your big takeaway of what God was teaching you? Let's start with you, Joel.
Okay. Yeah. At that time in my life, it was thankfulness. Yeah, for the life that I've been given. One of the songs on that album was kind of written in the same manner that Morgan wrote, the Lord's Prayer. And I was just sitting on the deck with my electric guitar, and I live out in the country, and I just had the amps cranked. Like, and when I play, like, I play with more than one amp, so everything's like cranked out in the country. And I'm just like jamming on my guitar, yelling hallelujah. So that's where this album comes from. It's from thankfulness. It's from the thankfulness for the sacrifice of Jesus. Thankfulness that we have open relationship with him, and that we can come to him at any time. And that to me is the wrap up of the album. We titled the whole thing Outlaw Gospel because we weren't sure what the genre was, and that's what we call this genre, Outlaw Gospel. Like, we're playing our instruments, we're having fun, and we're outlaws. We're outlaws.
Outlaws for Jesus.
Yeah.
Morgan,
Yeah.
how about you?
For me, this album is kind of encompasses the honeymoon period of our faith. And it's very encouraging and uplifting and motivating. In the second album, I want to go into like a really raw and vulnerable and that kind of place that doesn't necessarily get resolved. But here, that was kind of the theme that I was kind of carrying on. And it was just like my first writing experience where we were actually going to put something out. And so this is kind of where I went with it. And I find that my writing grows as I keep writing. And so this is kind of the stage that we were in when we wrote this one.
Love it. And Adam?
So for me, the album and kind of what God was working on me throughout it was just both in understanding his faithfulness and learning to just be faithful in what I feel he called me to in the first place as well. At the time, it was, you know, we had got the studio up and running. It had been a couple of years of building it from just this room was the studio. And then we expanded into a multi-room studio and, you know, felt God, you know, we prayed a lot about it, and it's a huge investment and all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, so you put put all this time in, you think you're following God, and then sometimes throughout the process, you know, when nothing seems to be happening, you just have to stay the course, and you just have to keep going. And I learned a lot that God works in the background when you don't realize he is. And, you know, there are stretches where it feels dry, as far as hearing from him. But I mean, there was periods 500 years where God seemed to be quiet to the Israelites, right? And then all of a sudden he sent Jesus. So there's those times in your life, and you just have to stay the course. You just have to keep faithfully doing what you feel God has called you to do. And he'll come through in the end. Like, you got to realize that he's always working in the background. So that's kind of what this album felt like to me, was that period of time where it was building. It was a lot of like getting to the next level. And then all of a sudden, you know, Joel and Morgan walked through the door with this record that they needed produced. And it was just this sort of like really exciting time of blessing that this felt like it was just all dumped on me at once.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, guys. I'm so sorry. They came out of nowhere. Adam, Joel, Morgan, thank you so much for sharing a bit of your heart today when it comes to the album, but also your current single that's at radio, The Lord's Prayer. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly.
All right, we've got The Lord's Prayer that is currently going for ads. A lot of you, for programmers, have already gotten back to us and have said yes, and that it fits, and that you have loved the lyrics. So thank you so much for your belief in Collect.Assembly and what they're doing musically. And we will do this again, hopefully next month, with another artist to share more behind the scenes and more of their heart in what went into making their current single. And if you have questions, just like Sherry did, you can always send them our way, or you can ask, and we would be more than happy to book an interview on their behalf with you, and so that you can ask your own questions to them directly for your shows. So thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today, and we'll do this again soon.